Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about a few discussions that are often had in the fan base and kind of just make a video chatting about all of them, because some of them we may not get a resolution to these questions for a long time, and some of them we may never get a resolution. But just looking at the story, I'd like to give my few cents on them, all related to Swordsman in One Piece, Zoro, Mihawk, the two of them together, and everything related. Now, as I did in a recent video of mine, I will be putting in the description some timestamps of the different parts of the video in case you are interested in specific parts and not the whole video, so you can check that out. I'll be discussing about who counts as a swordsman, Zoro's growth over the series, Mihawk and how strong he is, and at the end I will talk about Zoro versus Mihawk and everything in that part of the series. Now, before we get into all this discussion, all this excitement, please, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, right? Hitting that little red button goes a long way, and you lose nothing. Literally, you lose nothing. You gain more videos, you gain notifications to let you know when the videos come out. So go ahead, please do so if you haven't already. And if you're new, I will be putting a spoiler tag in the description just so you know where you have to be to watch the video without spoilers if you are not up to date. So with that said, let's get into the actual video. Now, the first section, like I said, will be the who counts as a swordsman in the series. Who is a swordsman, who is not a swordsman? And I think the simple answer that Oda probably goes with in the story is anyone who wields a blade, right, as a regular part of their fighting style. If you wield a blade, you are a swordsman. Full stop. Right? That is it. So I think that we can go over the semantics of it and say no, these people and that people, but I don't think Oda himself goes that deep into it. Although I do think you can break down swordsmen into different types of swordsmen, but they are all swordsmen at the end of the day, right? So you can probably have probably around 3 to 4 different levels of swordsmen, right? If we say 4, then you can have a super low level in which people just kind of they just have a sword, they just swing it around randomly. This is mostly fodder characters who don't really do much with their swords, so those guys are probably the lowest level. Then you have people who have a technique here and there, really like an actual named something, and are very good with it, but they don't really again use it very regularly. It's not doesn't play the biggest role in their fighting style, and play more of a minor role really, right? So this is probably someone like Big Mom, who has Ikoko Serenity, uses it every now and then, but compared to what everything she's done, it's not the most frequent tool we've seen her use. So that is that level. And then you have a level above that, who are people who they use a sword, they use it regularly, they're great at it, but they also have something else which they like to use and rely on a lot as well. For example, people like Law is stated to have been really good with a sword, and he has a devil fruit as well, which he takes full advantage of, but he's also good as a swordsman. And then you have the final level of people who we can just say live by the blade, right? This is your Zoros, your Mihawks, your Momongas, probably your Shiryus as well. So this is that creme de la creme when it comes to swordsmen. These are the men who, no matter what, this is their life. Swordsmanship is their life. It's their bread. It's what they live for. If you took swordsmanship away, they would literally die on the inside. They would. That is the final level of swordsmen. But I think all of them are swordsmen nonetheless. All of them count, and I don't think Oda makes too much distinction on saying, okay, this person's a swordsman, this person is not, this person is. I don't think he does stuff like that. He may single out some characters and be like, okay, for the sake of this person won't count as a swordsman. But in general, I think he counts them all as swordsmen. That's it. So the next part is going to be about Zoro and his growth, and I think that over the story, it's very clear in the pre-time skip that Zoro has faced many strong swordsmen. I think that, the swordsmen that he faced in the pre-time skip, in Daz Bones, Ohm in Skypiea, I think it was Kabaji on Buggy's crew, list goes on. He's faced many strong swordsmen in the pre-time skip, which have helped him all grow. I think the problem comes when we look into the post-time skip. And I think that what's important to learn, and I think one point about swordsmen, which people I think often forget and gets lost in the agendas and everything like that, is the fact that swordsmen don't exist on their own. They exist in the One Piece world along with all the other characters, right? So it's not good enough for you to be a swordsman and be able to fight other swordsmen. You need to be able to fight other people. And I think that that is another thing that Zoro has been doing in the post time skip, right? Not just being able to fight swordsmen, but being able to fight weird fruits, being weird techniques, all these other things, being able to cut different things, right? So, talking about Zoro wanting to cut Kaido, right? Or something like that. That is an important thing. Kaido's not a swordsman, but Zoro wanting to cut Kaido is a part of Zoro's journey as a swordsman. It's a necessary part of his journey. So I think that's another thing that we should always focus on, is the whole aspect of swordsmen do not exist in the One Piece world on their own. They don't live in this little kind of part of the world where nothing else exists except for swordsmanship. They exist with everyone, and they have to be able to fight everyone in order to be great swordsmen. Then we actually get on to the kind of Mihawk aspect, because I think this is a nice segue into talking about the fact that swordsmen don't exist on their own, and Mihawk's title. Mihawk's title as the greatest swordsman. Some people want to say the strongest swordsman, and I don't know, I feel like at some point someone got upset that mixing up the titles makes such a big difference. I think it's just Oda's way of saying that Mihawk is at the top when it comes to swordsmen. I really don't know what the difference is, but some people are really pedantic with it, and I feel like that's probably because of their perception and maybe an agenda behind that. But Mihawk's title as the strongest or the greatest swordsman is undeniable, right? So among the swordsmen, which I kind of defined at the beginning of the video, so that's why it was important to do that, Mihawk is the greatest or the strongest. So it doesn't matter if that person also uses their devil fruit like frequently, Mihawk is still better. So someone like Law counts as a swordsman, Mihawk is still better. Now I will say that I'm not sure exactly how Oda is going to define this in the end, because I think it's highly likely that Mihawk will be made to not be kind of the greatest character in the story. Alright, that will kind of just undermine what he said at the beginning of Luffy's journey being harder, and how that is possible if he's the strongest in the One Piece world. So I don't think Oda will play that into the story, but I do think that on some level it may end up being that Mihawk is the greatest swordsman. So if you're trying to fight with your regular fighting style of devil fruit, other kempo and swordsmanship, you just stop with the swordsmanship. You're better off trying to fight Mihawk with your other things, and that's probably how you win, by relying on the other things and not your swordsmanship, if you're someone like Big Mom, right? So maybe that's how it could go. Or maybe just be like, yo, if you have a sword, Mihawk is the strongest. Whether you want to add your devil fruit, whether you want to add your other whatever techniques, Mihawk is still stronger, because Mihawk, out of all the people who use the swords and are swordsmen, basically Mihawk is the best. Mihawk don't lose. That's the end of the story. So I mean, it could be either, but I see it being the latter, in which it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to rely heavily on your other things if you want to beat Mihawk, because Mihawk is a greater swordsman. So that's kind of how I view it. So in terms of how strong he is in relation to other characters, we could go in and delve deeply into that in another video. Let me know if you want me to do that. But I thought I should just lay that out, because it's often brought up between Mihawk and other people who are like Yonkos and stuff like that, and admirals, and how does he face there. So I think just in terms of swordsmen, full stop, Mihawk is the greatest. You don't challenge Mihawk when it comes to swordsmanship, he's gonna win, right? If it's someone like one of these top tiers and they want to fight, even though they have swords or blades, they're gonna have to find some way to beat Mihawk without relying on their blade. Like, they're gonna have to take full advantage of whatever else they have, and maybe they can beat him then. Maybe, right? And so we get to the final part of this video, which is Zoro versus Mihawk, a discussion which has been had many times, and I think now I'm just going to put this in a video because it felt like, it could be something I could always just point people towards whenever this comes up in a discussion again. And I always see people talk about, Zoro versus Mihawk. When will that happen? How will that happen in the story? And I think it's important to note that this was not promised, right? I think there's very slight differences in, taking things how they were promised in the story and seeing or guessing when they will happen and how they will unfold. And I think it's important to know the difference here with the Zoro versus Mihawk. An event like Luffy and Shanks, right, meeting up again, Luffy returning the Straw Hat, that was something that was not only promised to happen, but also Oda implied that it was promised that we will see it happen. On the other hand, Zoro versus Mihawk was something that was more promised to happen only. We were not promised that we will get to see that fight. We were not promised that it would happen in the actual main storyline. We were just promised it would happen at some point in Zoro's life, right? So I think it's entirely possible that it may not happen. We may not see it happen in the actual story, which, you know, depending on how strong Oda makes Mihawk in the end, would be actually logical, right? If Mihawk is, for example, second only to Kaido, let's just say how it is, that's how it is. Forget about your tier list, but let's just say Mihawk is only second to Kaido. It would not really make sense that at the end of the story, Zoro surpasses Mihawk, right? Just because of how strong that would mean Zoro would get. So I could see it happening later on, you know, outside the story. Of course, I'm not saying Mihawk is that strong, but in that case, right? Later on, after the story, some point in the future, Zoro versus Mihawk and he wins, right? But for the purposes of inside the story, I think it's entirely possible that it may not happen. I'm not saying it's definite, but it's possible that we may not get the Zoro versus Mihawk fight in this story, because I believe that just like Zoro, a lot of these Straw Hats will not accomplish their dreams in this One Piece story. Luffy won't accomplish his dream because, you know, at the end of the day, Luffy's dream has been whatever has been unsaid for the longest time, right? Whatever Roger decided to say that shocked Whitebeard and Odin, it's whatever that is. And, you know, maybe coming King of the Pirates is not, you know, doesn't make that dream come true. So maybe his dream is still ongoing, right? Similar thing with Frankie. For Frankie's dream to come true, they need to sail the world. For Nami's dream to come true, they need to sail the world. I don't think Usopp will be a brave warrior at the end of the story. I don't think Chopper would have found a cure for all diseases at the end of the story. Like, these Straw Hats will not have accomplished all their dreams by the end of the story, if you look deeply enough. So I think Zoro is no, you know, exception to this. I don't think he will, right? I think there's a great chance that he will not have achieved his dream, at least to the level of defeating Mihawk just yet by the end of the story. I think there will still be a ways he needs to go, and that will be something that will be implied to, you know, happen in the future at some point. But for now, Zoro will, you know, in the story, as far as we see him at the end, Zoro will be a great swordsman on his way to reaching the level of Mihawk, and one day defeating him, going beyond that, and achieving his dream of his name reaching the heavens and becoming the greatest ever. But guys, that's it for this video. Let me know how you feel about everything I've said. Let me know your stance on everything I've discussed. As always, guys, please like this video and subscribe if you want more content like this. If you know someone who needs to hear the truth, please share this video with them. If you have time, watch one of my other videos, and if not, thank you for watching this video thus far, guys. This is King KZ, and I'll see you in the next one.